Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Carrie Linklater. I'm your chairperson today. And on the panel, I'm joined by Mr. Jerry Sneesby to my immediate left, and my far left, Ms. Susan Gifford. Our city assessor today is Merrick Froelich, and our admin secretary is Cara Belshaw. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application. We will limit discussion to those matters. Statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with your board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record.
Please state your name.
Merrick Froelich.
Swear the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
That is true.
Thank you.
Bradford Scott Boardroom.
And do you swear the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bergstrom.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon, Mr. Froelich. Whenever you would like to begin.
Thank you. File number 1752.75, 2018 royalty year, address 1400 St. James. Business assessment number is 5486. Business name is Ming Auto Beauty Center. Owners are Forum Limited. We have a total ARV of 80,160, with a square foot area of 6,150, with a blended rate, with a rental rate including occupancy costs of $13.03.
If I might just interrupt at this point, I understand that the assessor needs to read in the information for the
Yes.
record, but we're seeking a 54-1 confirmation on this file.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, but I think I still have to read through
Yeah.
it all. Yep.
Yeah.
You don't have to present the evidence, but
Okay.
just
Yeah.
read through. Yeah.
Okay, so you want me to stop at the overall square foot, or just, when I say the overall ARV square foot, and I'd like for the rental rate to be confirmed?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure we're on the same page. So I'd like to confirm the rental rate and the ARV value of 80,160.
And Mr. Bergstrom.
yeah, we're just seeking 54-1 confirmation on this file. Thank you.
Thank you. File number 175315. Address is 2750 Saskatchewan Avenue. Business ID number is 5601. The business name and owners are the same. Well, pardon me, the business name is Sovereign Car Star Collision. Owners are Sovereign Coach Works Incorporated. We have total ARV value of 103,500. Premise area is 6,911. Overall ARV, including occupancy costs, is 1498. The base RV is 69,110. Occupancy costs are 16,241. And I'd like to reduce the value from 103,500 to 85,380 as per the 2018 Realty decision.
And Mr. Boardroom?
That's fine, thank you.
And whenever you're ready.
Yep. File number 175432. Address is 3570 Portage Avenue. Business ID number is 29100. Business name is Boyd Auto Body and Glass. Owners are the Boyd Auto Group Incorporated. Initial ARV value is 163,020, using an area of 9,348 square feet, with an overall ARV including occupancy costs at 1,744. Initially, we had the base rent at $15.32, including occupancy costs of $19,815, came up with a total value of $163,020. I have a list of comparables showing of how we created the model. But I'd like to reduce the ARV value from 163,020 to 141,360 as per the 2018 Realty decision.
Say that amount again, please.
Yep,
One.
it was 163,020. I'd like to cut it to 141,360.
Thank you.
Mr.
Fine,
Boardroom?
thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, panel, if you have any questions, just jump in. Okay, start up.
File number 175511. Address is 2535 Main Street. Business ID number is 35027. And the business name and the owners are Red River Cooperative Limited. Total ARV was 145,080, using a square foot area of 5,694, with an overall ARV per square foot at 2548. There are two different property types on this property. One of them is a convenience store, and the other one is a car wash. So the first one, of a premise area of 3,089, had a base ARV of 3289. The second one is an area of 2,605 square feet, with a base ARV of 1156. Those occupancy costs are 6,122. So the overall calculation, so the occupancy costs are 7,259, 6,122, plus a 108,840, plus a 36,240, equals 145,080. As per the 2018 Realty decision, I'd like to reduce the assessed value, the total ARV value, from 145,080 to 128,640. And that also including removing the air conditioning from the car wash. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor, like, you're not trying to adjust the rental rate or anything here, you're just.
Oh, I did it,
Recommendation?
I did adjust the rental rate. The rental rates moved from the model rates that were generated with the $32.89 was cut to $30 a square foot. And the car wash was from $11.56 to $9.
Is it on this sheet?
No, it's not.
Okay, I thought maybe I wasn't.
No, sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. I go from what happened in realty and I just provide myself a paper copy, but sometimes you realize that sometimes I forget.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Borgstrom.
That's fine. Yeah.
We'll move along to McColl's.
File number 175514. Address is 2615 McPhillips. Business ID number is 31893. Business name and owners is Red River Cooperative Limited. Total ARV is 76,680. Total area is 3,809. Overall ARV, including occupancy cost, is $20.13. Once again, there are two different property type classes with this property. First one is the convenience store kiosk, which consists of 1,364 square feet. That market rent we used is $34.45 to come up with a base ARV of $46,990. Those total occupancy costs equal $4,637, which comes up with a total annual rental value of $51,600. For the second one is the car wash. That area is 2,445 square feet, using $8.22. The total occupancy cost for this one section is $4,964. Added with the total of $25,080, comes up with our original business assessment value of $76,680. I'd like to make a recommendation to reduce the business assessment value to $70,800, using a rental rate of $30.50 and $8. This matches the 2018 realty decision.
Thank you. Mr.
Fine,
Borgstrom?
thank you.
Okay, and moving on to Brookside, and I understand we have a non-co-op on this one?
That is correct.
If you'd like to present first on the non-co-op?
Yeah, for sure. I will go through the file number, 175345. Address is 1777 Brookside. Business ID number is 18363. We are requesting, the assessor requests that the Boardroom of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation, section 53.3B of the MAA. And our production and assessment is ordered that it follows section 54.3.2 of the MAA. And so with that, we're asking for the recommendation to confirm for 2018. And we do have a recommendation for 2019. Page 2 shows the Realty Board decision for this property. I'd asked for non-compliance and it was allowed. Hearing took place on November 29th, 2017. Panel members are listed there. The panel hereby orders as follows: that the request for the assessor for the application of 53.3 and 44.3.2 of the MAA be allowed. In rendering the decision, the panel placed the burden of proof on the applicant and directs the following revision as per section 53.3. The panel finds that 54 bracket, open bracket 3.2, close bracket, provides that this decision will take effect in 2019, the year following which year the application relates. Page 3 shows the actual decision that had taken place, where I had made a recommendation to cut this estimate from $3,647,000 to $2,960,000. Page 5 shows the original workup for the value of $3,647,000. Page 6 shows the recommendation that had taken place to reduce the assessed value to $8.86 per square foot. Page 7 shows the first communication that we had to the property owner regarding this, because the owner is one of the same.
Right, and Mr. Froelich, I'd just like to point out on page 7, you've got the property user ID.
I know. I apologize for that. It's an oversight. Yes, I'm trying to get these things done, so I'm sorry. Page 8 shows the instructions for completing the questionnaire. Page 9 shows the legislative authority for asking for the non-compliance. Page 10 shows the first letter that we sent to the property owner regarding the application which had a due date of April 29th, 2016. Page 11, 12, and 13 shows the subsequent follow-up pages for the income and expense mailer. Page 14 shows the second letter that we had sent out on June 3rd, 2016. I acknowledge my error once again. So page 14 and 15 are similar to what I just spoken of. Page 16 shows the legislative authority in which we ask for this for penalty. Page 17 shows the second letter that we sent out with regards to the June 24th, 2016 due date. The reason why this information is so important is we can't create good valuations without good information. If everyone doesn't provide us any information, then we can't create an accurate assessment goal. Page 18 and 19 and 20 show similar information. Page 21 shows the signed letter that proving that they did receive the registered letter that we sent out for the second income and expense mailer. Page 22 shows the actual address that had taken place where the registration number matches what was on the original letter. And page 23 shows a history of non-compliances not being filled out. So they didn't fill out one in 2013, also in 2015, 2011, so and 2000 and in 2013 we did get an income and expense mailer. Page 24, status of title. So on the highlighted copy, you'll see that the registered owner is Brookside Business Center Incorporated. That's on page 24. Brookside. Address for service, Brookside Business Center, is on the bottom of page 25. So then, when we go to ownership, we have the Brookside Business Center listed on page 26, which is highlighted. I'm referencing over here on page 26. And then on page 27, you're going to notice the name Robert James Ford with 2 O's and R as officers. Director information. So there's Mr. Kenneth Tron, there's Mr. Robert James Ford, and there's a Douglas Levinsky. Also, officer information are those 2 individuals, Mr. Robert James Ford. Shareholder information, NT&T Properties Limited, which I've highlighted here on page 27 in the middle page here. So then, we do another title search. NT&T Properties Limited, that we've highlighted here. And as we move forward down here, we see the name Robert James Ford. Page 29 shows the listing there of Robert James Ford. And then once again, we see NT&T Properties. So we go to the registry number and I bring up Cal Tire Limited. What do I see here? Continuing down, Cal Tire Limited, we have Mr. Robert J. Ford once again listed as owner of the property that we have listed under the Brookside Business Center Incorporated on page 30. So page 30 shows Mr. Ford. Page 31 shows Robert Ford. Robert Ford was born and raised in Vernon, BC, attended Okanagan College. Robert joined Cal Tire in 1987, spent the next 28 years working his way up through the business, starting in the warehouse. In 2009, he became president of Cal Tire, a position he still holds today. Robert's responsible for guiding the company forward with the same fundamental principles and company culture that has been successful since 1953. Tom Ford was his father, and it shows here in the little clipping here that Robert, his son, is now the president of the organization. Based on this information here, the ownership of the property and the income and expense ratio responsibility falls underneath Cal Tire. It falls under Mr. Robert Ford's organization, which is why I'm asking for non-compliance today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boardroom, questions?
I do have some, thank you. All of the information that you presented here from page 2 through page 22, we'll start with those. All of those deal with a request for information made by the city with respect to the realty roll number, correct?
That is correct.
Do you know if a request for information was ever sent to the business operation?
It's well documented that for us to create market model rents for realty, we use the income and expense mailers. From the income and expense mailer process, we create the same model rents that are used for the business assessment roll number.
Perhaps you
Based on that information, what will happen is we cannot do one without the other, so we cannot create a business assessment roll if no one provides us information. And it would not be cost effective for the City of Winnipeg Department to send a second roll for business assessment, which is why we choose not to do so.
Let me repeat the question for you. Do you know if a request for information was ever sent to the business owner?
Everything's listed under, as you saw in my documentation, the billing information goes to Brookside Business Center Incorporated, and everything subsequently goes
One
that.
second, which information goes to Brookside Business Center?
The appeal information, the tax bill information,
Business tax or property tax?
well, property tax, we have it listed here as business name, Cal Tire, a division of, that's the business name, but everything feeds under the registered, everything feeds under, pardon me, just give me a sec here, under the Brookside Business Center Incorporated.
Just so that I'm sure I understand, the information on your pages 2 through 22 all deal with a request for information made to realty roll number 14-100-045-000?
That's correct, 14-100-000-45,000.
And to your knowledge, was a request for information ever sent to the business owner, Cal Tire? Let me just back up for a second. Cal Tire, a division of Bridgestone Firestone Canada, Inc. Do you know if the request for information was sent to them?
They're one and the same.
They're one and the same. You're aware, are you not, that in law, corporations are each individually and separable individuals, separate parties, if you will.
Yeah. But
You're aware of that?
the profits for the company in question and the dividends would go to whoever was in charge of the numbered companies. So they may be listed as legal entities, but in our opinion, it's one of the same. Who gets the money from the profits from Cal Tire that's located at 1777 Brookside Boulevard?
My question relates to whether,
My answer relates to if they're one of the same. They may be different legal entities, but the bottom line is the money's going to the same person at the end of the day. It's not going to Goodwill, it's not going to the general well-being of society, it's going to one individual or one company or one corporation. And I've provided documentation that the president of all the legal entities that you speak of is Mr. Robert Ford.
so I gather from that answer that you agree with me that they are in fact legally separate entities under law.
All tied to one individual.
Do you know where the 2018 business assessment notice was sent?
I do not have it in front of me.
Do you know where it was sent?
I do not have it in front of me, so I don't know where it was sent.
I appreciate that you don't have it in front of you.
Well, the point is that we have the real estate manager, I do have the application here, and we do have the real estate manager, Eileen Grant. We don't have an address here, I don't know who Eileen Grant is, but she has authorized you, and it's consistent, it was paid by American Express bill. They're appealing quantum, they're representing the agent. That's all the information I have in front of me.
Just for your reference, it's the Altus American Express card that pays for all.
Okay, no problem,
So,
that's fine.
and so, when you were reviewing the file, you didn't look to see where the assessment notice was,
Not-
business assessment notice was sent?
Not on this occasion, no.
Now, if we look at your page 24, all of that and all of those so page 24, 25, 26, and 27, all deal with the Brookside Business Center, correct? Brookside Business Center, Inc.
Yeah, and it matches the realty decision of the owner and the taxable party. That was on page 3 of my brief.
And so Brookside Business Center, Inc., then on pages 2 and 3 that you just referred to, that deals with the ownership of the realty, correct?
That is correct.
Now, N&T Properties, that's not the name under which the business assessment is assessed, correct?
Yes, they are a part, or they're a contributing factor of Brookside Business Center because they're listed here.
Right.
So they're a part of, so they're part owner.
Brookside Business Center, Inc., which is the
Yep.
owner of the real estate,
Yeah,
but that's not the business, the corporate name of the business that's occupying the property, correct?
well, that's correct because we have the business name as Cal Tire.
Fair enough. Those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Skipper?
No questions.
Mr. Cisko?
The non-compliance was granted for the realty.
That is correct.
And that's the same request that is relied on for the business?
That is correct.
So is this a non-compliance for both realty and
Yes.
business, like double jeopardy?
Definitely not. We can't create a business assessment role without good information. So, and we cannot create values without doing that, so I would disagree with that comment.
Okay, all right, no, I'm just,
Yep.
I didn't get
Yep,
that
no,
straight,
no,
you
no,
know.
for sure, yep.
It's,
And I understand that, and it's a fair question to ask.
It didn't help matters any further. But the realty owner and the business owner, or business, are two different entities?
They're two different names, but the original owner is the same.
But the owners are the same?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, that's my questions.
On page 21 of your brief,
Yep.
there's a signature there with the name,
Yep.
J. Neufeld, who was signed for the letter.
That's what it states there, yes.
Yeah, do we know who J. Neufeld is?
No, we do not know who J. Newfield is. They're the authorizing party to sign for bills that need to be sent to Brookside Business Center at 1777 Brookside Boulevard.
Sorry, you're saying they're authorized?
Well, they're the person who was they were the person who signed for it, so I don't know who J. Newfield is.
Okay.
It's just like any office environment, if someone comes and
Correct.
whoever signs authorization within the City of Winnipeg Assessment Indexation, one of our clerks here at the front desk will sign for letters, or if I get a registered letter, they'll sign for my behalf and they'll
Right.
take it under their responsibility to make sure that I get it. They don't have authorization to go into our office space.
And you said that there is a history of non-compliance?
There has been, yeah, so.
And but you did indicate that on one occasion you did send it in.
Yeah, so we do have the 2016 income and expense mailer. 2015, we did not get. We did get 2012. We did not get 2011. And I did not check this out. We may have received 2013, but I don't have the supporting documentation for it. They did not send it to us in 2009. And maybe it could be in our other section. I do not have access to it here, which is why I am asking for non-compliance.
What about 2014?
2014, it doesn't show on here, just let me double check.
No, I don't see it.
No, I don't see it either for 2014.
Okay. So, just so I understand, at 1777 Brookside Boulevard,
Yep.
that is occupied by Cal Tire.
That's the business name of the company, yes.
Okay. There is no other business being run out of 1777 Brookside.
Not that I know of.
Okay, just because I think you're referring to it as Brookside Business Center.
Well, that's
Right.
that's a business name, but the owners are, but
Okay.
they're one of the same.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure that there aren't other businesses being run in that.
Yeah, because we just have for the realty, we just have the one premise listed. So if there'd be a different company, a different organization having the space, then we would have had the realty divided. But if that's wrong, if Mr. Boardroom could prove me different, I'm not that familiar with it, so, but I'm guessing so.
Okay. Mr. Borgstrom. Oh.
I know that this document has been before this board on a number of previous occasions. I know at least one of the members has seen this. I'm not sure about the other ones. I don't recall whether everybody has seen it. But I'm going to go through it in a little bit of detail. After we take a look at the rear of our submission, if we start at page 45, all the numbering is in the bottom right-hand corner. This is a copy of the 2018 property assessment notice, and you'll see there highlighted that the registered owner is Brookside Business Center, Inc. And at the bottom of the page, you will you'll see there that that's addressed to Brookside Business Center Inc. at 1777 Brookside Boulevard. And that's exactly where the assessor's information suggests that the request for information was sent with respect to the realty. And I didn't ask him, but as you look through the assessor's documents, you'll see there that it very specifically refers to that roll number. If we flip back one page to page 44, I've included here a copy of the 2018 business assessment notice. And recall that the assessor, in answer to my question, said that he wasn't sure where it went, which is why I've included it here. There you'll see at the top left, highlighted, the name under which this property is assessed for business assessment purposes. That's Caltire, a division of Bridgestone Firestone Canada Inc. Whether or not there are common threads of ownership for the corporations is irrelevant. Legally, they are separate individuals in law. Each corporation is a separate owner. And as we look at the bottom of the page on the right-hand side, you'll see there that this 2018 business assessment notice was actually sent to a post office box in Vernon, BC. So very different addresses between the two. The assessor has provided evidence that a request for information for the realty assessment was sent to 1777 Brookside and was received there. He hasn't presented any evidence with respect to a request for information sent to the Vernon address, which is where this assessment notice went to. So, in talking about, or in addressing the issue of our opposition to the request for this penalty on business assessments, we looked to both the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter. And I'm first going to take you through, we turn to page 3 of our brief. All of the provisions that relate to business assessments, the authority to make the business assessments, the authority to tax the business assessments, all lie within the City of Winnipeg Charter. The Municipal Assessment Act very clearly excludes the City of Winnipeg from any provision within it relating to business assessments, and all of the provisions related to business assessments are expressly under the City of Winnipeg Charter. We show, and I've included the actual legislation or the acts, both the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter. The relevant sections that we're referring to are at the rear of our submission in appendices. But for ease of reference, we've actually just lifted and placed the actual sections and subsections of both the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter within this document itself. And so there you'll see that on page 3 under section 28, for the purposes of the business tax, Council may, by bylaw, provide for business assessments to be made in accordance with this act in respect of businesses that are carried on in the municipality. We look right above that, sections 8, 28 to 28 to 30 and 34. Those are the sections that do not apply to the City of Winnipeg. And if we look just above that, right under paragraph 5, under section 3, City of Winnipeg exempted. So all of those provisions under the Municipal Assessment Act there do not apply to the City of Winnipeg. Those deal with municipalities, towns, and cities outside of the City of Winnipeg. Where it does come into force or into effect is on page 4. And there you'll see under 316.1, the provisions of the Municipal Assessment Act, except those in section 3, which excludes the City of Winnipeg, and subsection 17, 15, and 16 of that act. And if we go over to page 5, we can just take a quick peek at that. That's more of the Municipal Assessment Act dealing with business assessments and ARV. Here again, this is actually under the City of Winnipeg Charter, very specifically excluded from the City of Winnipeg. And in 316.2 talks about all businesses to be assessed. There are some exceptions and some very specific exemptions, and it goes on to describe the various effects of the sections of the charter, talking about the basis of the annual rental value and so forth. When we take a look at what the Municipal Assessment Act intended, and we look over on page 6, you'll see there, and it's our respectful submission that section 54.3.2 of the Municipal Assessment Act has no application to the 2018 business assessments in the City of Winnipeg, which are created under the authority of the Charter. The sections of the Municipal Assessment Act that we're specifically referring to here, 16.1, talks or says very specifically, an assessor may request that a person, including a Crown agency or Crown corporation who owns, uses, or occupies accessible property, provide to the assessor information or documentation that relates or might relate to, or that affects or might affect, and I've highlighted these words, the value of the property being assessed, and then it goes on from there. It's important to consider that the legislation includes there the term value, and if we look over on page 7 at the top, we've actually included the definition of value from the Municipal Assessment Act. It says value means in respect of the property being assessed under this act, the amount that the property might reasonably be expected to realize if sold in the open market on the applicable reference date by a willing seller to willing buyer. Very clearly, that's referring to the real estate, and very clearly referring to the real estate only. Further down, under section 54.3.2, and this is the subsection that the assessor is seeking to have applied here, because we're a person, and in this case, person includes corporations, they are individuals under the law. Where a person failed to comply with a request for information or documentation under clause 16.1c, the board or panel shall specify in its order that any reduction in the assessed value, and I've highlighted that there for a reason, the person's property is not to take effect until the year following the year to which the application relates. Right below that, we've also show here the definition of assessed value from the Municipal Assessment Act. Means the value, and again we get into the definition of value, very clearly meaning real property, not rental rates. Means the value that is determined by an assessment under Part 5 or as revised on an application or under an appeal under Part 8. And does not include a portion value based on a percentage. Now there, under an appeal under Part 8, and we refer back, that, and it talks about, and it goes on to say, does not include a portion value based on a percentage of value under subsection 17.14. Now, when the Act talks about portion value or percentage of value, they're very clearly talking about the realty assessment, the real property assessed value. Nothing to do with business assessment ARVs. Our submission, our conclusion from the review of the legislation is that section 54.3.2, and I'm on page 7 here, of the Municipal Assessment Act provides this board with the authority to order a deferral in the assessed value where a failure to comply with the request for information under 16.1c is found. However, assessed value, and I've already gone over this, is defined in the Act as an assessment under Part 5 or as revised on an application repeal under Part 8. As noted above, the City of Winnipeg business assessments are specifically excluded from Part 5 of the Municipal Assessment Act. All of the authority related to business assessments falls under the City of Winnipeg Charter. The legislature had intended to include Winnipeg business assessments in the penalty provisions under the Municipal Assessment Act. It would have to do so using clear language. This is simply not the case. And in fact, when you look at the wording here, the opposite is in fact true. The definition of the assessed value does not include the Winnipeg business assessments, which are a creature of the charter and not created under Part 5 of the Municipal Assessment Act. Point 2, there has been no valid request for information made in connection with the 2018 business assessment. The assessor hasn't provided any evidence to that effect. The request for information, as you'll see in the documentation, and we've included excerpts of the city's brief showing in fact that there was a request for information, and that's shown at page 46 and following, just excerpts of the city's realty assessment brief for 2018. Excerpts actually of what the city has already included in their submission in support of this request. A request for information appears to have been sent to the owner of the real estate, the real property, Brookside Business Center, Inc., and that request actually referenced roll number 14-100-04500. Unless the assessor provides specific evidence that a request was sent that references the business assessment roll 18363 and was sent to Cal Tire, a division of Firestone Canada, Inc., who is the assessed party for the purposes of this business assessment hearing. There cannot be a proper request as required by the Municipal Assessment Act. More than that, they're at different addresses, and that's pretty clear from where the assessment numbers are sent. As we've demonstrated above this, there are entirely separate and distinct provisions for the creation of realty assessments. Those fall under the Municipal Assessment Act, and the business assessments, which fall solely under the City of Winnipeg Charter. The legislative authority is entirely separate. The roll numbers are completely distinct, and the taxes levied are based completely on completely separate accounts. You don't see one bill going out for property tax, business tax combined, because the business tax is related to the occupancy. It follows that if the penalty is to be sought on a distinct and separate business assessment account, then a valid request specifically associated with that account must be made. Third point, the request that the assessor is making here today is at odds with the assessor's duty to be fair and equitable within business assessments generally. The assessor's request, and you alluded to this, the assessor's request, if it's imposed here today, has the effect of penalizing this premise or this property for the same offense twice. The penalties for noncompliance would therefore then be imposed twice for the same alleged omission. And so I'll wrap up there. There's a lot more that you can read through at your leisure, but for all of those reasons that I've described here and based on the legislation, both the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter, it's our submission that the city's request for the application of the penalties be denied in this case. Okay. Save and accept questions. I think that's what we wanted to submit in support of our opposition.
Thank you. Questions?
Yes. Where does Mr. Robert James Ford live?
I don't know.
Okay, we have documentation.
You have documentation, I don't.
I've presented documentation showing that he lives in Vernon, BC. On page 44, where was the business assessment notice sent out?
The 2018 business assessment notice that we've attached at page 44 of our submission with respect to the request for the application of penalties was sent to a post office box in Vernon.
Okay. And Mr. Robert James lives where?
I don't know.
Oh, he lives in Vernon, BC. And so the profits, dividends, and if the shares go and increase in value, where would they ultimately go to?
I have no idea.
Would they not go to a company that's owned by Mr. Robert James Ford?
I don't know.
Okay. Where did the realty note bill go to for,
The property tax bill?
yeah, the property?
I don't, or I haven't included that in our information, but I can tell you that when you look at page 45, the property assessment notice was sent to 1777 Brookside Boulevard in Winnipeg.
Okay. Which is consistent with the information they've asked us to sign, to send us to, because we follow whatever businesses tell us to ask to send their information to.
All I can tell you is that the business assessment notice, and we've attached a copy here on page 44, was sent to an address in BC, and the 2018 property assessment notice was sent to the address here in Winnipeg.
Okay. Which is linked to NT Properties, which is owned by Robert James Ford. Is that not correct?
That's not included within my information here.
Okay, but it's included in the information that I provided.
This is not a question.
Okay, it's, you weren't able to answer the question, so I just shared the information with the board. So in your brief, you reference, so on page, let me get this straight here. So on page 4, and for clarification, maybe you can understand this better. Municipal Assessment Act applies to 316.1. The provision of the Municipal Assessment Act except those in sections 3, subsections 1715 and 1716.
Let
Yet,
me stop you there before we get too lengthy here.
okay,
The Municipal Assessment Act does not apply to section 316 of the City of Winnipeg Charter.
okay,
The Municipal Assessment Act very specifically excludes the City of Winnipeg from all issues and matters related to business assessments. And the City of Winnipeg Charter then created that, the City of Winnipeg Charter then contains all of those provisions related to the creation of the business assessment, business taxes, calculations, all of that falls solely within the City of Winnipeg Charter.
okay. But then that doesn't conflict with what you've written here on page 7, where the City of Winnipeg business assessments are specifically excluded from Part 5 of the MAA, but that's not listed on page 4, because on page 4 it says only sections 3 and subsections 17, 15, and 16.
Hang on. I'm looking at page 7. Where were you looking?
You said what you have highlighted on top portion, as noted, City of Winnipeg business assessments are specifically excluded
Right.
from Part A, Part
Yes.
5 of the MAA. So
Yes.
section Part 5 is not listed on page 4 of the 316.
All of those sections, and, okay, so first of all, you need to understand that parts and sections are two different things. All of those sections and subsections relating to business tax or business tax matters on page 3. If you look at section 3, it's near the top of page 3. Sections 3, 28 to 30 and 34 do not apply to the City of Winnipeg. And then more than that, if we go over to the next page, on page 4 under subsection 316.1, the provision, and this is from the City of Winnipeg Charter, the provisions of the Municipal Assessment Act except those in section 3 and subsections 15 and 16 of that act apply to business assessments in the city. And when you look at sections 1715 and 1716. We show those at the bottom of page 5. Those are from the Municipal Assessment Act, also dealing with annual rental values and business tax. So when you look at the legislative scheme, all of the authority related to business assessment and business tax for the city of Winnipeg is excluded under the Municipal Assessment Act, and all of the authority to enact the bylaws, to charge the taxes, to create the business assessment rule, all fall within the city of Winnipeg charter.
But the section that I'm asking for non-compliance is not included in sections 8, 28 through 30 and 34.
And when you look at that, it very clearly refers to realty assessments where they talk about value, willing seller, willing
Yeah.
buyer. And it also, that's the request for information under
Okay.
section 16.1. And more than that, it talks about, and I've gone over that already, and I'm happy to go back and actually.
No,
go over it
okay,
later.
that's fine.
But it also talks about portioned assessments, which
Okay.
very clearly applies strictly to real property assessments, not business assessments.
Okay, but you speak of value. How do you create an ARV? And how do you create value for realty?
They're two very different things.
They're not, because in my eyes, they're one and the same. You cannot create a realty value without a market rent. You cannot create a business assessment value without a market rent. So when you say value, in my eyes, it's one and the same. You create value by using market rents. You create value from a realty using market rents. You create an ARV using value for business assessment purposes. They're one and the same. You're taking the legislation and you're using it. The legislation is vague, and in my eyes, you create value by using market rents. We create the business assessment role by using the market rent value.
That's a great argument, but I'm waiting for a question.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So my question was, which Mr. Boardroom didn't answer, is how do you create a business assessment for this?
The business assessment very clearly is calculated by determining a rental rate
Yeah.
and adding to that occupancy costs. Those are the components of the business assessment. The realty assessment can be done in a number of different ways. It can be done on a direct comparison approach, which is used by the department. It can be done on a cost approach, which is used by the department for other properties, and it can also be derived value.
Okay.
Can be derived using an income approach, which is also applied to some
So for
properties.
this,
They're
okay,
not quite certain. So there are different methodologies. There are three approaches to value, any one of which can be used, and all three of which are utilized by the city for different properties.
so how do we value 1777 Brookside Boulevard? How do we create the value?
For, when you're talking about value, you're talking about
Realty
real
value.
property assessment.
Realty value.
There was a stabilized income stream
Okay.
to which was applied a capitalization rate.
And with that stabilized income, was a market rent used to stabilize the income?
I don't recall what we submitted at the board revision.
Okay, so
I
honestly, Brad, come on.
No, I truly don't know.
You don't know how we came to value on realty.
I don't know what,
But that's not what's
Yeah.
before us.
I
right
understand
now.
that, but
It's not
I'm
the
saying,
realty, it's the business.
I understand that, but the argument that I'm making is that the value for the business assessment value is derived from the market rent, which is directly related to the realty value that we're speaking of, which is how we're asking for
they're two very
non-compliance.
separate matters, and not having appealed, not in this case, but for those premises where an appeal of a realty assessment was not made, does not preclude a submission being made with respect to business assessment or an amendment to that assessment being made.
I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you. Skipper.
The assessment notice for the business went to the correct address? You're not arguing that?
For the business assessment,
Yes. For Cal Fire? It went to the
Well,
correct
that's-
address for the information?
and I'm assuming, reasonably, that they actually received it because they gave us a copy.
Okay. So they did actually receive it? You're
At
not
this
arguing
address. For the business assessment, no. There was, however, no request for information made to that business assessment address.
Oh, okay, no, that was my
Or-
question.
or that
They did not
corporation.
get the information?
Well, the request for information that was sent out was sent out for the real property, and it was sent to and received by, apparently, somebody at 1777 Brookside Boulevard.
Okay, just let me get this straight. For the business information, they're sent out for the realty, and then they're sent out again for the business.
They are not. They're sent out only, the city sends out requests for information only with respect to real property roll numbers.
Okay. So nothing is sent out to the business?
There was no request for information sent to this business at that address.
Okay. That's my question then, thank you.
Both the realty owner and the business both pay their business tax and the realty tax every year, right? You're good corporate citizens.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, well, otherwise they'd be in arrears, right?
Or they wouldn't have the property mortgage.
Yeah.
Taken down.
Okay. But, and if it were the tenant and the realty owner were arm's length, the mailer would still only go to the realty owner.
Legally, they are two separate
I got that.
entities.
I got that.
And the requests for information that the city sends out only ever go to the real estate owners.
The realty owner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's my question. Have you or office ever requested a legal opinion on this? We're dealing
Well, I
with.
can tell you, not practicing here, but Kerry has his LLB, and so, this matter isn't discussed solely within our office. We've obviously been consulting with council about it, and I expect at some point in time, all of, or at least some of these issues hopefully will be addressed again by the Manitoba Court of Appeal, because Leitcherson did not provide clarity with all of the sort of permutations on the issues surrounding these requests, and this is
What was that precedent that you mentioned?
Leitcherson?
Oh, yes.
That's going back quite some time ago.
I
The
know.
Boeing case is more recent, but it didn't really provide a lot of guidance, other than it doesn't matter that the owner didn't tell the tenant about the request for information.
So the possessor of all of the information would be the realty owner as opposed to the
Well,
business.
different, and actually, I ran into this circumstance not so very long ago with another request for information, where the information that's requested by the city may be not, sorry, let me come at this another way, not all of the information that's requested by the city in their income expense, or their income expense questionnaires, is in the possession necessarily of the people that they send it to. For example, a rented property. 120 King Edward that I had in here a couple of weeks ago. Leased to Boyd Auto Body on an arm's length transaction. The owner was late in responding. There was a penalty applied on the realty end of it.
Mhm.
And the city sought the non-compliance penalty in that instance, partly because the information, and I had another property similar to that, partly because the information wasn't provided in a timely fashion, but also there was missing information. Well, if it's leased to a tenant, single tenant property, right? So on a net basis, the tenant is the one that's paying for the bills. The city of Winnipeg isn't going to give the owner a copy of the water bill because of privacy. Can't get it from Manitoba Hydro or Century Gas for the same reasons. So not all of the information that the city requests is available necessarily to the parties that they send the requests to.
So that can only be
That's okay.
complied with by having separate requests. Perhaps. Okay, that's my questions.
Okay. So one request is sent out, and it was sent to 1777 Brookside
Well, and
for property and BA.
no, when you look at the information, and I'll refer to it in mine because I've included it in mine. I've included excerpts of the city's brief to this board in respect of the realty assessment appeal at page 46 and following. So the information shown there is that it's the realty roll number. When you turn the page, on page 47 at the top, you'll see there that the city very clearly talks about the roll number as 14-100-04500. That's the real estate roll number, or the real property, or the property assessment roll number.
Right.
And that's verified when you look at sort of the top third of page 46 in the assessor's brief. That's the realty roll number. And so that's where the request for information was sent to, and it was sent with respect to the real estate. Yeah.
Okay. John, if you'd like to read the minutes.
For sure.
like to call this hearing back to order. And in regards to the non-co-op at 1777 Brookside Boulevard, we are going to deny it.
Okay.
And if you'd like to proceed.
For sure. File number 175345. Business ID number is 18363. We have the total ARV value of $345.60, using a premise area of 23,035, with a blended overall rate of $14.17, including occupancy costs. We have a base ARV, so there's a reduction that will be made. The reduction will be based using an ARV rent of $9.86. And what it means is that the new ARV value will be $286,740, including occupancy tax. And it's based on the 2018 realty decision.
Thank you, Mr. Borgstrom.
That's fine, thank you.
File number 175527. Address is 610 Kildare Avenue East. Business assessment ID number is 38833. Business name is Kern Park Shell. Owners are a numbered company. Initially, the ARV value was $81,600, using a total area of 5,806 square feet. The blended overall ARV per square foot was $14.05, using occupancy costs. Once again, this property has two aspects to it. First aspect is a convenience store of 896 square feet. The second aspect of it is a car wash. Originally, the model rates were $33.77 and $7.50, which created a value of $81,600. Based on the 2018 Realty Appeal, I'd like to change the business assessment of value to $65,220. The board's decision was to change the rates at $23 and $6 for the convenience store and $6.31 for the car wash. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. You agree, Mr.
Yes, thank you.
File number 175505. Address is 1070 Henderson Highway. Business ID number is 442. It's the owner's and business name is Red River Cooperative Limited. We have an ARV value of $71,280, using 450 square feet. Overall ARV per square foot is $158.40. And we would like to confirm the assessed value as per the 2018 applicant's request for a 54-1.
And Mr. Borgstrom?
Yeah, we're seeking 54-1 just for explanation. Property, it's the co-op at Henderson McLeod. It was closed last July. Site was scraped. Everything's been replaced, rebuilt. Opened up operations mid-January, so we're expecting a sub to be issued shortly.
It opened up again as a Red River?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes, sorry, yes, yeah. Interestingly, same building size. It's very weird to me.
Brad and I had this for realty.
Yeah. So we're assuming that there's going to be supplementary assessment coming. And we're assuming we've written to the assessor, city assessor requesting adjustments.
File number 175506. Address is 1947 Henderson Highway. Business ID is 29033. Business name and owners are the same at Red River Cooperative Limited. We have a total ARV of 86,060. Total area is 1738 square feet. Overall ARV is 5527. This property has a convenience store and a car wash with it. I have a variety of rent comparables that are used for this type of valuation. The first three are, the first five, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are gas station kiosks. The last two are car washes. You see the rents listed there, ranging from 142 to 160. I have two car washes on the bottom, and we're asking for the 2018 realty decision to be confirmed, the rental rate to be confirmed as per the realty decision.
Thank you. Mr. Boardroom?
Yeah, there's a municipal board appeal pending, so we're just gonna follow along, taking a 50 for 1 year,
Thank you.
sorry.
I just need you to.
Yes, say the words.
Thank you. This hearing is concluded.
Thank you.